Welcome to the Christie Taylor Show. I'm your host, Christie Taylor, here back again with an amazing interview. I'm super excited to have, most of the people that I'm interviewing are people that I've had a pleasure of knowing throughout the years, throughout my career as a radio personality. And this young man is no exception to that. We got deep roots, a lot of love for each other, and I'm super excited to have Mr. Dale, the hip hop apostle. When the world first met this Memphis, Tennessee native, Mr. Dale, he was a member of the Oscar-winning platinum-selling group 3-6 Mafia, dedicated to his life to the Lord, to Jesus Christ, and he left the group. And the rest, as we know, is history. He's still passionate about music. Mr. Dale began to rap the message of salvation, and through his form of witnessing, he has led thousands of souls to Christ. Widely known as the hope dealer or the hip hop apostle, Mr. Dale has become a trailblazer, using unconventional, non-traditional ways to share the message of the kingdom of God to an unchurched generation. Now, also as the CEO of Dedicated Music Group, DMG, where he leads a label and mentors aspiring and established artists, Mr. Dale believes wholeheartedly in giving back. And as a dynamic speaker, Mr. Dale moves in a form of ministry that appeals to the streets and those like him. Now, Mr. Dale is currently focused on releasing his final album. Yes, I said final album. MD 2020 to the world. Let's give it up, Mr. Dale. How you gonna do an album, bro? How you gonna do an album?
Yes.
One album. Okay, we're gonna get to that. But first, can we go down memory lane? How you doing? How are you?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed in the middle of the pandemic. And this pandemic has had its curses and its blessings. And I'm definitely on the blessed side of it.
I feel like you too. Truly, this was a global opportunity to also readjust, realign, and reconnect with God in different ways. So we get a chance to talk about faith and how, in the midst of tribulation, God can, bring blessings, cause us to level up even. Now, let's go back. Was it 1999 when I first met you? It was 1999, or was it a little earlier than that?
No, it was 99. That was when I started coming around the church.
That's right, because prior to you being the hip hop apostle, you were part of 3-6 Mafia. Let's talk about that, and then we're going to get into your leveling up.
Well, yeah, I started my music business with 3-6 Mafia. They signed me to their label, Hypnotized Minds. In the summer of '99, I released a hit called A&T, which has since then been re-recorded by 21 Savage and the City Girls. The song was featured in the Will Ferrell movie, The Campaign. So that song, even still to this day, lives on and continues to make me money. Glory be to God for that. but yeah, man, and right on the trajectory of that, God shut it down, and he gave me his master plan for what my life was and my purpose for what it was, and that was to do what I have been doing for the past 20 years, which is being the hip hop apostle.
Now, as the hip hop apostle, that, of course, like I said, the time we connected, which would have been around 1999, I had just joined a local radio station, AM 990, The Light, and you showed up.
I sure did. I showed up so with the big announcement, that I had left, this world and was transitioning over into the kingdom. And that began this whole 20-year journey that you've been a part of since the beginning.
I know. So I feel really, really grateful to have this opportunity to celebrate with you in this 20 years. Here we go into an opportunity to celebrate the last 20, but also looking forward to what God is going to be doing in the next 20 and beyond. Now, also in that time when we made that radio connection, beyond you just making that switch from performing for the into the kingdom, as you say, you also became a radio personality, and we worked for 990 The Light together, and you had a holy hip hop show.
Yeah, shout out to Tracy Pathay, man. That was her doing. I did not know. She told me I had a voice for radio, so I did.
And you did.
Which is so crazy because now I have my own radio show, remote radio, that's in 4 markets right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So really, yeah, that started that stream and introducing the holy hip hop culture to Memphis.
Now, that was one of the biggest challenges around the time, of course, holy hip hop or gospel rap had been around since the 80s. My brother, as you know, Michael Anthony, he was a part of one of the early groups, ETW, and some others that came from that late 80s, early 90s, but it still hadn't really taken that strong stance. As a matter of fact, some of your early lyrics talked about how the church was still very resistant.
Yeah. And I talk about that too on the new album. The album is really about the whole 2020 journey. It's about love, loss, and legacy. And I definitely talk about how we had resistance against the movement. And shout out to Mookie. Shout out to Mookie, you know what I'm saying? Because he put me on the Out of Eden album that he produced, you know what I'm saying? And gave me my first Christian CCM look, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, definitely shout out and salute to him for that. But, when I came on board, I think that, I'm standing on the shoulders of those who started in the late 80s and the 90s. And by that mid 2000, that was when we broke the door open. You know what I'm saying? And labels started paying attention. The Stellar Awards started paying attention, and they gave us our own category. So we really fought for all of that.
Now, who were your colleagues that were in that, I could say, like that particular class of, I'm going to use the word gospel rappers. Of course, that name and title has changed over the last 20 years, but back then it was still considered gospel rap. So who was with you during that time?
And still is my brother Canton Jones. That's my purpose partner right there, Canton Jones. So many people have came and went, but when you talk about longevity and someone who God connected us together to do this and tear these walls down together, it's been me and Canton Jones. And it's only right for the last album and the first single to be with him. So that's my first single that's dropping this Friday with the video is a song called Change, and it's featuring Canton Jones.
Now, of course, Canton, we got major love for him here in Memphis. Of course, he has a strong relationship with us here. But I also want to talk about some of the politics that you had to endure that had really built in you the reason why you ended up creating your own label.
Yeah, it was again, the resistance of the church. There was also the ignorance of the gospel community, not knowing what this was. Not knowing if it was marketable or if it would sell, because even though it was ministry, when you get into the business side of it, it has to make sense. And when I say make sense, I mean make dollars.
Make dollars, right?
I never forget meeting with Ken Pennell at EMI Gospel and trying to explain to him what this was, and he just didn't get it. And I said to him, well, clearly this is about numbers. So give me the numbers of your new signee, like what did their last album sell? And then he told me, he said, well, if you sell this many copies, then we'll think of something. And I said, I'll be back when I sell that many copies. And 2 years later, we did that deal.
I love it. Now, of course, as one of the ones who was a trailblazer, really widening the path for a lot of those who had that positive message. You found it important, not just for Memphis musicians, because you and rappers, but across the country. What were some of the things that you had to really drill into their hearts and minds when it came to pushing this music forward?
Really, that we're stronger together, and I've always collectively wanted Memphis to mob together. Like even when I got my Universal deal, I did like a tribute to Memphis, a compilation called The Gospel of Memphis. And it was just so many great artists on there. Daryl Pettis, Cameron Bethany, D. McGee, my man from Perfection, Chris Williams.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was an album, man. That was an amazing album.
Oh, it was incredible. Produced by Barkey Walker, Key of D, written by David Gillard. I mean, it was an amazing album. But I always, Carla Talbert, I mean, everybody involved with that album. And it was more so just the knowing that Memphis had the sauce, man. We always have had it. And it's just usually Memphis artists and musicians move to other cities and take the sauce and the ingredients to those cities. But I've always been about Memphis. I'm born, I'm raised in Memphis. I'm gonna stay in Memphis. And it's just, and I'm a son of Memphis. And I just, I always would tell artists and push artists that, raise the banner for the city, because not only do we have history, but we have to create a new future as well, a new Memphis. And all of us are a part of that.
Yeah, something, you were starting to really preach back then, that message of collectivity and being in collaboration, but God also called you beyond the mic, just from your rhyme to a different kind of flow, and you started a ministry.
Yeah, that was crazy too. That was unexpected. That was a trick. God tricked me in that one. He was like, I'm gonna get him in the gate with the music, but then I'm gonna tell him what his real purpose is. And so, I started a ministry, man, a college ministry on University of Memphis. And of course, that evolved, which is still going on today. And then, after this last album, I'll be transitioning further into the ministry with my movement now called Soul Ties, which I've already authored 2 books. It's a trilogy book series, How to Detox from Toxic Relationships. And it basically just speaks about how I was abused as a child, and from my not knowing my father and being abused by my stepfather, and my mother being abused, and just seeing what that did to me as a young Black man. And just so now, I can get more across, with a 30-minute message more than I can a 3-minute song. So it's just me evolving and transitioning into that.
Do you think that has a lot to do with where your generation is? Because we are in a generation where a lot of people are talking more about those childhood traumas that have shaped them. One thing I can say, even like with Lecrae, his, in the recent years, how he became very vocal about a lot of his trauma, even how it impacted his career. Is that something y'all are talking about with amongst each other, or is it just what the Spirit is doing individually and it just happens to be timing?
I believe it's timing and what the Spirit is doing. I had no idea Lecrae was sharing that. But I mean, that's something that God had been dealing with me starting in 2009 when I did a song called My Life Rated R. And it was just, me telling basically my business, going against that old Black code of what happens in this house stays in this house. But what has happened is, because of that, we have birthed a lot of trauma and tragic people who have repeated the cycles, and now we're birthing children that are born under that curse. And so I just wanted to be one of the agents of change, you know what I'm saying, that would say, okay, no, that's no more. We have to, cry loud and spare not, you know what I'm saying? And we have to talk about this, and we have to seek counseling, seek therapy, seek healing, you know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much it, man. I just believe that's this next season I'm going into, that will be what I'll be doing until I leave this earth.
Now, how has COVID impacted your ministry? Because everybody's doing church differently in 2020. And since you have this type of holistic ministry, what does it look like now post-COVID?
Well, the great thing about, my relationship with God is I've always had my ear to him concerning the way I do ministry. And we were already set up for virtual online. This stuff that everybody's doing, we were already doing it. So So it was an easy transition for us. The only thing that I miss is I'm a people person. So I love to touch the people. I love to hug the people. So that's what I'm getting antsy about. Like, I can't wait to get back out there and actually touch the people. But other than that, we've been already running it virtually, social media, already been on top of it, because I made it a point that everyone who works for me is basically millennials. You know, they're kids, you know, they're college kids. And so I always like to be on what the new technology is and things like that. And okay, what's new? Okay, put me on there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I refuse to be played out. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of generations before us with church, and, you know, being 10 years behind. Like, it's time out for that.
Right. Now, with that being said, okay, you're a millennial who's definitely appealing to the YZ generation. They're very strong in their opinions and their beliefs now. And because, as you know, we grew up in church and in the world where we honored and respected everybody in authority. And now we're in a world where everybody in authority has shown that they're not worthy of our trust. So how is Generation YZ dealing with that, as serious as they are, and particularly when it comes to God?
Well, I think what they're looking for is realness at this point, and I think that's where the vulnerability comes in. Like you said, that's happening with myself and Lecrae and other artists. Is just being bare. Like, we're in an age now where social media lets it all out. Like, I mean, basically, people are literally typing their emotions in 140 characters or less every day. So if you can't come like that, like if you can't come real with what's really going on, instead of this 50-year-old, you know, church facade that, you know, we've been putting up for all that time, then they're not going to respect it. But real recognize real, and real respects real. So I just choose real, you know, every day.
You know, that's a challenge to me, because I am a generation. They changed this around so much.
Yeah, so what does that make me? Am I really a millennial? I was born in '78.
I think you're at the beginning. Okay, because I'm Generation X, meaning I came right after the baby boomers. And I think that you might be at the top end of what they call the millennials hitting Generation X. So definitely at that point where, you know, Gen X, we were still indoctrinated to, you know, play the role. Now, we may have been the first generation to really leave church, because we like, well, I ain't gonna fake it, I just won't show up.
Right.
You know, and then to me, the generation that came out to us, which was, you know, the millennials, more so, you all were like, I'm gonna do church, but I ain't gonna buy into the formalities of it. And now this next generation is like, no, let's keep it all the way 1,000, not even 100, 1,000. So it's a challenge, you know, to not only put your faith on point, but put your life, you know, in the center of that, and say, this is why I rely upon, have faith in, or struggle with.
It is a challenge, but if you think about what you just said, and I love the way you broke that down with the different generations, leading up to what we're dealing with now with Y and Z, we have no other option.
Right.
So if we don't do it like that, then they're a godless society. Right. I mean, that's just it. There's no multiple choice in this generation. You know, it's literally where the line is crossed. It's either this or that. And, you know, in my time of just being with God, you know, he let me know when I was asking him about COVID and what this was and why the world is going on like this. He said, it's basically the time of Elijah again, when he went against Baal, and he drew the line and said, are you going to serve God or are you going to serve Baal? This is just where we're at. We're at an either or. There's no more what you said, like the way you broke it down. It was like Generation X, like this. You had options. You had multiple choice. You know, you had all these things. Right. But now it's to the point where it is so blatant. Even if you look at it in the media, like, you know who they serve. Like they don't even hide it no more. It used to be a point where they did hide
right.
it.
You didn't know.
You look at certain videos and you see demonic signs, you see the pledge, you see the Illuminati, you see the symbolism. Like, they're very clear about their messaging. So for the church to still be tap dancing with this fakeness, it's just foolishness. It's like, because these kids are seeing it raw over here. Now they want it raw over here, and then they will make their choice.
Mm.
You know what I'm
But
saying?
do you think the church, okay, and I'm saying, we both had an opportunity to be exposed beyond the Black church, but to the entire American view and way we do church, Christian, Black, how we used to have that Christian meant white, Black gospel meant Black, what I'm saying? Gospel meant Black. But when we talk about Black church, the evangelicals, the charismatic movement, the progressive movement, all these different liberal, a whole mix and potpourri, realistically, I mean, this is just us having that conversation. How real can we really get? Because even what's going down in the political sector and how it has splintered the church within the church, because now you're finding out like, oh, wow, I've been going to your house and that's how you've been feeling about me because my life didn't matter.
Right.
It's so painful right now.
It's painful, but in truth, painful. Like, truth hurts. It does, and that's what we're seeing. Because if they're going to be real and we're going to be wrong, then that means it has to be across the board, even with race.
Yeah.
Even with race. And I remember years ago doing an interview in a magazine and getting a lot of flack and controversy over me pointing that out. Like, I'm like, how is it? Like, I remember I said, how is it this is supposed to be the body of Christ, but we have gospel that means Black and like our Christianity is segregated.
Yeah, right.
They came after me for that. Like, that was, I was, but that was like the beginning, of what type of realness and rawness, and I believe that God wanted to be spoken out here.
Now, with that being said, you've been in this 20 good years, even before you got into the Christian world and to gospel. Of course, you're a church boy, like a lot of people who grew up in the South, But the thing is that how in the world are you going to condense all that in 2 albums? Because you're doing a double album. That's a lot. That's a lot, Mr. Dale.
It is, but I think I managed to pull it off, and I have a documentary that's also that comes along with the limited edition that you can only get on MrDale.com, where I go deeper into it. But I think I pulled it off. We'll see this Friday.
Okay, well, let's find out. So let's talk about the album in its entirety, your approach to it, what sparked it, and why is it your quote unquote final album?
When I first got saved, I intended on basically being a rap artist for the length of the career, which I said, I wanted to do 10 albums. So when I gave my life to God, I said, okay, God, I'm a tithe my career. I'm gonna give you 10 albums of my career. And then on my 10th album, which was in 2018, which was supposed to be my final one then, it was called Black. And it was basically a socially conscious record about everything that was now going on, but it had really been going on, but I guess now being more perpetuated.
Right.
I remember going to Atlanta, and God spoke to Kent, and Canton prophesied to me and said, I know this is, you're supposed to be retiring, but God said you have another album that's supposed to be done. And so when I prayed about it, God dealt with me, and he was like, yeah. He said, because the number 12 means divine government. It speaks to, it's 12 disciples, 12 months in a year. And it just speaks to a sense of foundation, completion, and basically a blueprint. And so being that I have been doing this for 20 years, what I wanted to do was I wanted to leave a legacy and a blueprint to other artists that come up behind me, artists that I'm mentoring, or if someone first now hears about me at the age of 10, because you got to understand, the kids that I touched when I first started are now 30. They now
Right.
They now are married. They now have children. they have come to me and said, I was raised off your music. You helped me make the right decision. So I saw what my career did. So MD 2020, of course, it speaks to, you know, the Gemini in me. I'm a Gemini, so I have two sides. I have this street side, that South side that represents one album, the sound of that hardcore bass, that Southern Memphis sound. But then I also have a soul side of me. And the soul side has, you know, singing, more melodic, more smooth, more laid back, more vulnerable ministry songs. So you get the best of both worlds with MD 2020. And the complete album has 20 new songs and 20 greatest hits.
How long have you been working on this?
2 years.
2 years. Wow.
2 years. Conceptually, 2 years. To record it and get it done, it took me 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I set aside a month per album.
Okay. So tell me this. Canton is going to kick it off. You all got a collab, first track.
Ken Jones is going to kick it off. I got newcomer Lecrae's artist 1K Few. He's on the album. My cousin Bishop Kevin Foreman makes an appearance on the album, and of course the artist that I mentor, Merk P31 Fro, is on the album, and that's the first one. The second one has all Memphis artists, Carla Barnes of the famous Barnes family, Adagio, D. McGee, James Robinson.
Wow.
So I'm really, I mean, that soul side is just incredible. So I can't wait for people to hear both, you know, the body of work and, but I put a lot, and it was COVID. So for the first time in my whole career, I had time to be an artist. My time wasn't split between preaching, going on tour, and then meeting a deadline for the album. Like COVID allowed me to really be an artist again and put my 100% into it and the soul into it. So I feel like it's my masterpiece. It's the best way to go out. And I'm really excited about that. You see, I got the merch on.
I see. You're always about that merch. You're always.
Oh, you know I'm a brand. I'm a marketing genius now. I'm a brand. I got the mask, everything. So
I love it. So the very fact that you got the crunk side and the soul side, that's really the heart of Memphis. You giving that grit and that grind, that hustle, that flow.
Yeah.
Mr. Dale style, Mr. Dale, MD 2020, MrDale.com. That's the website where we can get all the details.
Yeah, MrDale.com. That's all things Mr. Dale. You get, you know, that's the merchandise, that's the album, that's the documentary, everything, MrDale.com.
Okay, and it drops
Friday. The first album, Soul Side, drops Friday.
And then the second one drops when?
All things 2020. 12/20.
Okay, so that means November, December, a double drop. So before this 2020 end, we will have the complete body of work from Mr. Dale.
Yes, and if you get the limited edition, you can get both right now. You get both albums on my website. But to the world at hand, Apple and Spotify and all of that, 11/20, the 11th album drops on 11/20, the 12th album drops on 12/20/2020. And I'm going.
I love it. All right. All things Mr. Dale at MrDale.com. We'll be right back. We're back with Mr. Dale. I just wanted to say thank you. I love you, and it's so good to see you.
I love you too, Christy. It's so good to see you, and I'm so proud of everything you're doing. You've been doing this for a long time. You are definitely a media rock star, and I salute you.
Thank you, love. Thank you. Mr. Dale!